Chapter 31. The Power of Max Luck. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lin Feng does not plan on entering the house of the Marquis of Xuanji, not mentioning whether or not the Marquis of Xuanji himself is at home. There won't be a lack of other experts holding down the fort. Since he already knows that Zhu Yi has thoughts of leaving the house of the Marquis, Lin Feng decided to simply wait patiently. Sure enough, after 10 days Zhu Yi carried a cloth baggage, heading on foot towards Spring Mountain outside of Tianjing City. He's preparing to participate in the imperial examinations and doesn't want to be bullied within the house. So he decided to simply go live on Spring Mountain for a period of time. Like this he can also take care of his mother's grave. Meng Bingyan's grave is right on Spring Mountain all by itself. With the status of concubine she cannot enter into the Zhu family's ancestral hall after death. Lin Feng waited until Zhu Yi left the house of the Marquis and then silently followed behind him. Zhu Yi walked all the way to the foot of Spring Mountain. After sweeping Meng Bingyan's grave and burning incense he took residence in a little temple not far away from the foot of the mountain. Lin Feng had already ascertained that this temple is a run-down Buddhist temple. Inside the temple is only a regular old monk taking watch. Every year Zhu Yi will live here for a bit, 1 to take care of his mother's grave, 2 for the peace. After giving the old monk some incense money Zhu Yi rested in the side hall. Opening his bag and lighting some candles he prepared to start studying. Stroking the book in his hands Zhu Yi muttered. Whether or not I can rectify my dead mother's name depends on the spring civil examination and the fall's imperial examination. First I'll get Juren and then I'll get Jinshi. When one successfully passes the examinations their next 3 generations will also gain titles. The court will send a decree to confer the title of lady upon my mother, then mother's grave will be able to be led into the Zhu family's ancestral grave. Her spirit tablet can also be placed in the ancestral hall for ablation. TL. Search Imperial Examination if you want to know more about Juren and Jinshi. Just think of them as your master's and doctorate degree. Too bad I can't practice martial arts and cultivate. Even though it's civil officials who control the court of the great Zhou dynasty, to truly gain a title of nobility one must depend on military exploits. If I became a cultivator and then went into the army then I would have a high status. Then if I established a military achievement and obtained a title, my mother's title wouldn't only be lady, she would also have a noble ranking. Her status would be far higher than that Lady Xiao. Thinking of Lady Xiao, aka the Marquis of Xuanji's main wife, made Zhu Yi think of his mother who died an early death, his eyes revealing sentiments of sadness and resentment. Lin Feng silently stood outside of the temple, the corners of his lips revealing an interesting smile. Going to the back room first and knocking out the old monk to prevent him from leaking out information, Lin Feng then checked the surrounding environment. After confirming that there were no problems Lin Feng openly sat cross-legged on a rock in front of the temple. Lin Feng circulated the 9 Heaven Thunder technique at full power, purposely releasing the mana circulating in his body out from his nerve points. This action of his is actually completely contradictory to normal cultivation. Cultivation is about channeling the spiritual energy of the world into the body and refining it, yet Lin Feng's way of letting the energy spill out of his body means that he's wasting it all. Although, from the appearance that's a completely different story. The current Lin Feng is encircled by purple energy, occasionally electric sparks can be seen flashing in the air. Under the effect of the electric current all of his hair is slightly floating upwards. The crackling sound of electric currents sounded non-stop and there was even a faint sound of thunder echoing in the mountains. With your average Qi disciple level 10 cultivator, even if they released their own energy outside of their body it wouldn't create such a big commotion. Thank you system, thank you novice gift, thank you 9 Heaven Thunder technique for such amazing visual and sound effects. And then matched with Lin Feng's clothing of a white, wide-sleeved robe and Taoist crown, his appearance is completely perfect, definitely the model of a master sage. The sound of weak footsteps came from behind him. Just hearing them one knows that it's someone who's never cultivated before, but they are steady and firm. Lin Feng knew it was Zhu Yi. Hearing the green-clothed youth noticeably soften his breathing, Lin Feng smiled in his heart. He's here. Lin Feng suddenly stopped his mana but did not turn around, saying lightly. If you want to watch, then why not come out and watch openly? The sound of breathing behind him slightly paused but then very quickly became calm. The sound of footsteps rose up and stopped not far away behind Lin Feng. A neither humble nor overbearing voice said. I did not have any intention of spying. If there was anything that offended you, I ask for your forgiveness. Sure enough, it was Zhu Yi's voice. Lin Feng suddenly asked. Are you afraid? Zhu Yi was silent for a moment and then he spoke in a clear voice. The books of the saints say that righteousness and intelligence are the key to understanding the world. As long as scholars have an upright, disciplined heart and possess strong and pure intentions, they need not fear the evil. He paused for a moment and then continued saying. Even though evil spirits all know witchcraft of shape-shifting and deception, evil spirits are all formed by intangible thoughts. Even if they are powerful enough to manifest themselves, they are nothing but cold blobs. They won't have the feeling of a flesh and bone body. Zhu Yi's voice became increasingly more calm, his thinking also became increasingly clearer. Not to mention lightning is the most extreme yang energy essence of the 9 heavens and is the bane of yin spirits. You are able to manipulate lightning and possess a strong body. Naturally you are not an evil spirit. Although you are probably not a regular person either. Are you an immortal or swordsman living in the mountains? Lin Feng slowly turned around. Looking at Zhu Yi, who was speaking with confidence and composure, he suddenly revealed a smile. You seem to be very knowledgeable about demons and the like. Scholars speak not of the supernatural and violence. You are not a regular scholar. Zhu Yi answered openly. Those are simply bookworms. We scholars harbor righteousness, understand the world, know the supernatural and reach the gods. This is the true nature of things. Lin Feng smiled, saying. I didn't think you'd be so interested in cultivation. This time Zhu Yi did not answer at the first moment. His eyes flashing, he pondered in his heart. Could it be that this Taoist wishes to take me as his disciple? He grew up in the house of the Marquis and his mother died early. As a bastard, he's used to seeing the fickleness of human nature and the struggle for power, so his vigilance is very high. Seeing Lin Feng appear strangely, he had to be careful. My father does not allow me to cultivate and I don't have the money to hire a master to teach me. Now seems to be a chance, but who knows what this person's background is. Seeing Zhu Yi hesitate, Lin Feng immediately guessed his thoughts, saying in his heart. Just as I predicted. Anyhow, I never thought of taking him in as a disciple just like this. Guess I'll stick to the original plan. Not waiting for Zhu Yi to formulate his response, Lin Feng let out a long laugh. Too bad everything you know is just based on gossip. How can cultivating be so simple? The people outside of the door naturally cannot understand what's behind the door. I was simply passing by here. I did not expect to meet an interesting little guy like you. I had a nice time talking to you, but I have something to do and am unable to continue chatting with you. Good. Bye. Maybe we'll meet again another day. Finishing speaking, Lin Feng did not wait for Zhu Yi's reaction, using the ability of Cloud Dragon escape with lightning suddenly flashing around his body, disappearing from the spot. Using the flashing lightning as a cover. Up, Lin Feng's body soared and quickly hid into the forest beside the old temple, retracting his aura and hiding his location. Zhu Yi, who was blinded by the lightning, slowly regained his vision at this time, blankly staring at the rock in front of him, seemingly not expecting that Lin Feng would actually just up and leave. Zhu Yi looked around the old temple for a moment. With his senses that have never been trained, he naturally cannot discover Lin Feng's whereabouts. Returning beside the rock, Zhu Yi muttered to himself. And I thought that Taoist had thoughts of taking me as his disciple, turns out I was thinking too much. Wait a sec, is he playing hard to get? But it doesn't look like it, or else he wouldn't have left without saying anything. That Taoist looks young, but I wonder what his true age is. Tao techniques, cultivation. If I achieve success in cultivation, could I make father admit his mistake and make Lady Xiao stoop her head? A person outside the door is unable to understand what's behind the door. This door, how can I enter it? Zhu Yi suddenly let out a surprised sound. Walking over to the rock, he bent over to look, picking up a purple crystal from the rock. Lin Feng laughed silently. The fish has taken the bait, it should be about to bite the hook. He left the opening chapter of the 9 Heaven Thunder technique within that purple crystal and did not add any restraints. Zhu Yi may not have cultivated before, but as long as he focuses his mind on the crystal, he'll be able to read the words within. Zhu Yi was playing with the purple crystal when he suddenly smelt a burning smell with his nose. Turning around and heading back to the temple, he immediately cried out. Oh no! Turns out when he came out he forgot to close the room door. The winds in the mountain are strong and they blew into the room through the door, actually blowing his book onto the brazier. Seeing the book already burnt to ashes, Zhu Yi felt very upset, but looking closely he discovered that in the brazier there was a piece of paper with a faint dark gold color within the ashes of the book. The golden paper is packed with small text and also has illustrations. It seems to be gold, but it was not burned by the fire. Ksitigarbha Sutra. This is a Buddhist Tao technique. Zhu Yi was greatly shocked and then overjoyed. Just now I was distressed over how to enter into the door, and now a Tao technique has appeared before me. Don't ask me how to pronounce that. Outside of the door, Lin Feng was dumbfounded, his lower jaw nearly hitting the ground. That works too. That book, if I remember correctly, he just got that book from the used bookstore before he left the city. Max blessing of 10, a blessing of 10. Fuck. Chapter 32. The Master that Cheats the Disciple. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Outside the temple in the night breeze, Lin Feng's expression was uncertain. The Ksitigarbha Sutra originates from the same source as the art of Akala. They are both secret Buddhist dharmas of the Great Thunder Monastery of the past. Called Ksitigarbha is to be tolerant and still as the earth and silent and deep as a scripture. Ksitigarbha is the Buddhist equivalent of the Chinese Bodhisattva, Di Zong, the first word meaning earth and the second meaning scripture. The ability cultivated by the art of Akala is Fury Akala Flames, and with the successful cultivation of the Ksitigarbha Sutra one can obtain the Buddhist body of the gilded Ksitigarbha body. As long as the Buddhist body exists, one is unaffected by all tribulations and immune to all laws. It is a very famous Buddhist protection technique. The Tao technique that this Zhu Yi obtained is actually a secret Buddhist path on the same level as the complete art of Akala. Hiding it within an old book could be the arrangements made by monks who escaped after the fall of the Great Thunder Monastery to pass on the Tao techniques of Buddhism, waiting for a destined person to find it. In the end nobody discovered it, but Zhu Yi, this main character with a blessing of 10, discovered it on his first day of obtaining the book. Lin Feng knows that Zhu Yi, who has been misfortunate for so many years, is about to step upon his unstoppable path of invincibility. His old pops the Marquis of Xuanji may be arrogant right now, but in the future he'll definitely lower his head. If he doesn't give in, then he'll just beat him until he does. But then what about me? Lin Feng had a rough expression. Zhu Yi's luck has already started taking a turn. His situation is improving and he especially won't become his disciple. Zhu Yi, who has obtained the Ksitigarbha Sutra, thus in turn possesses his own starting capital. It seems like he already doesn't need Lin Feng to teach him Tao techniques. If you want to take this kind of main character as a disciple, then you've got to rush to give him a helping hand in his time of need before his luck starts to turn around. Or else if you wait until his aura of hegemony to burst forth, you don't know who'll be bowing down to who. Lin Feng was rapidly thinking in his heart. What should I do? Should I just use the art of Akala on my hands and pretend to be a Buddhist cultivator, lying to him and saying that it was me who hid the Ksitigarbha Sutra in the old book waiting for him to find it? That won't do. Zhu Yi is a very independent person and has very strong vigilance when interacting with others. If he tries to catch him empty-handed he most likely won't believe him. After pondering for a moment a warm smile like the sun resurfaced on Lin Feng's face. Hee, this isn't so good, is it a little too mean? Looking at Zhu Yi who has already started to be immersed in the training of the Dao technique, the smile on Lin Feng's face became increasingly wider. Zhu Yi, my disciple, for you to have a better development in the future your masters got to first make you suffer for a bit. I believe that you will understand my goodwill. Making up his mind, Lin Feng was no longer anxious. Right now it is night time and Tianjin City's gates have already closed. He can't go back anyways, so he might as well just patiently wait here until tomorrow morning. At the same time he was also paying attention to Zhu Yi's results in practicing the Ksitigarbha Sutra. Reality shows that main characters really aren't a joke. In just a moment's time Zhu Yi could already channel energy into his body, stepping onto the path of cultivation. You have to know that he relied only on himself reading the sutra and understanding the words, he did not have anyone guiding him. Besides a blessing of 10, a comprehension of 9 is truly extraordinary. This strengthened Lin Feng's thoughts of taking him in as a disciple even more. When the sky brightened Lin Feng immediately returned to Tianjin City, arriving at the house of the Marquis of Xuanji impatiently waiting. Not too long later a group of family servants came out from the back door of the house, walking over to a restaurant in the city square not too far away. The ugly-looking fatty at the very front was surrounded in the middle by everyone and was clearly the leader among them. Lin Feng silently laughed. He already found out that this fatty's name is Zhu Jun. He is a servant that the wife of the Marquis of Xuanji Lady Xiao brought over from her family. His original name is Xiao Jun. He only changed his name to Zhu Jun after following Lady Xiao into the house of the Marquis of Xuanji. His nickname is Fatty Zhu. Fatty Zhu is very loyal towards Lady Xiao. To curry favor with Lady Xiao he made things quite difficult for Zhu Yi. This guy looks ugly but he does have some cultivating talent. In these few years training with the guest masters of the house he also reached the level of Qi disciple level 8. Fatty Zhu and company entered the restaurant, going up to the second floor together and sitting down at the position beside the window with the best scenery. Looking at them Lin Feng's face revealed a smile, his body hiding into the crown and disappearing. Not long later an odd story started circulating between the customers of the restaurant. In the old temple on the mountain a green-clothed scholar exhibits strange behavior, actually able to spit out lightning. The news traveled into the ears of Zhu Jun and company, all of them looking at each other. Coming from the house of the Marquis of Xuanji, Zhu Jun and company are far more knowledgeable about the cultivating world than regular customers. Lightning is the most violent force in the world. Dao techniques that can absorb thunder energy to cultivate are all top-notch goods. They also know the matter of Zhu Yi studying in the old temple on the mountain. Listening to this, that person is actually Zhu Yi. One family servant asked uncertainly. Those mountain people are all hillbillies, they're just spreading the wrong information, right? How could that Zhu Yi obtain such a powerful Dao technique? Another person said. The Marquis once said that he wants Zhu Yi to first learn the classics and knowledge and then they'll talk about the matter of cultivating. He can't even walk yet and he wants to learn how to run. If he really is secretly cultivating then we'll get rid of his cultivation prowess. Who dares to break the rules of the Marquis? The cheeks of Fatty Zhu who hadn't spoken the whole time moved, slowly saying. Let's go check it out. If Zhu Yi really is secretly cultivating then we'll confiscate his Dao technique and then hand him over to the Marquis to deal with him. Don't do anything else unauthorized. Everybody's eyes lit up, all of them starting to laugh. If Zhu Yi really does have a top-tier Dao technique then they don't dare to keep it for themselves and will definitely turn it over to the Marquis of Xuanji. But before they turn it in they naturally have the time to make a copy. A top-tier Dao technique, no matter what they'll want a slice of the cake. Zhu Jun also laughed, the fat on his face rippling. The group of people immediately left the restaurant, rushing toward Spring Mountain outside of the city. But they did not discover that Lin Feng was following behind them the whole time. Looking at the backs of Zhu Jun and company, the smile on Lin Feng's face became increasingly brighter. The deuteragonist is already waiting on the stage that he's prepared, now the side characters are also about to step on the stage. The big show that Lin Feng himself wrote, directed and acted in is about to kick off. People chosen by the heavens like Zhu Yi with a shining protagonist halo above their heads usually all possess the ability to kill higher-level monsters. If the opponent's strength is too weak, then that's just giving experience points to Zhu Yi. But Fatty Zhu and company are all at the very least a level of Qi Disciple level 5, level 6, moreover there's Fatty Zhu this Qi Disciple level 8 holding the line. Zhu Yi only just came in contact with Dao techniques and cultivating, he also doesn't have any experience. No matter how much of a prodigy he is and how OP his luck is, against Fatty Zhu and company the only thing he's doing is getting beat. Killing higher level monsters also has its limits. If he gave Zhu Yi some time to train, his level would definitely rise sharply like he was on drugs. But Lin Feng did not give him any time to train his level, immediately pulling a wave of elite monsters to go gang beat him, even main characters can't do anything. Lin Feng easily followed behind Zhu Jun and company, the script has already been written, now he's just waiting for the actors to make their debuts and perform. My good disciple, you are familiar with history, you definitely know the sentence, before the heavens entrust a man with a ponderous task, his mind shall first be fathomed, his flesh wearied and his skin starved, right? So in a bit when you suffer a bit don't be afraid, master's got your back. Sure enough, after Fatty Zhu and company arrive at the temple and found Zhu Yi they immediately launched an attack. Zhu Yi could also be considered vigilant, hiding the golden paper with the scripture a step ahead. No matter how much Fatty Zhu and company humiliated him he did not admit anything. But he didn't guess that Fatty Zhu may have the face of a pig, but his mind is clear. With a skim of his eyes he discovered that the bottom of Zhu Yi's long sleeves were stained with a bit of ashes. Fatty Zhu kicked over the brazier, pushing lightly the brazier still had the sparks of embers. The golden paper recording the Ksitigarbha Sutra was instantly revealed. The color of Zhu Yi's face changed. Fatty Zhu and co. laughed. Outside the door, Lin Feng who was watching everything also smiled. Chapter 33. The child pays the debt of the parents. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at the brazier that landed on the ground and the exposed Ksitigarbha Sutra, a feeling of despair rose up in Zhu Yi's heart. Could it be that this is my fate? Why give me hope and then immediately put me into despair? I can't, a gentleman always strives to improve himself, I must not lose heart. Fatty Zhu picked up the golden paper recording the Ksitigarbha Sutra, looking at Zhu Yi with a playful expression. Young Master Yi, what is this? Zhu Yi pressed his lips together, his expression already calmed down. To think that there was something like this in the brazier. I did not discover it before. Fatty Zhu and company looked at each other, all of them laughing out loud. If that's so then we'll take and then turn it in to the Marquis for him to deal with it. But young Master Yi, since you discovered it together with us you'll also have to take a trip with us. Like that we'll be able to verify it in front of the Marquis. Fatty Zhu squinted his tiny eyes, his face filled with a complacent expression. Zhu Yi calmly nodded his head. No doubt losing the Ksitigarbha Sutra makes him depressed, but the most urgent matter at the moment is to get past his old pops the Marquis of Xuanji Zhu Hongwu. Zhu Hongwu is very strict with rules. Don't mention Zhu Yi this kind of neglected bastard, even the eldest son who has the rights to inherit his title will lose a layer of skin from Zhu Hongwu's family punishments if he makes a small mistake. If he lets Zhu Hongwu know that he was secretly practicing Dao techniques, he might even lose half his life. Outside of the door Lin Feng smiled faintly. It's time for him to enter the stage. If he waits until Zhu Yi is brought back to the house of the Marquis, he might be grounded by the Marquis of Xuanji and unable to leave the house again. The difficulty then of him taking in Zhu Yi as his disciple under the eyelids of the Marquis of Xuanji is too great. Something's wrong. This is. Lin Feng was in the middle of planning things when he suddenly sensed a group of people rushing out from the forest, heading straight towards the old temple. Lin Feng felt a chill in his heart. What do they want to do? Could their target also be Zhu Yi? These people are far superior to Fatty Zhu and company, moving rapidly and swiftly within the forest, orderly and disciplined like men of the army. Even worse is that there's a foundation establishment stage cultivator among them. While thinking, Lin Feng first hid himself beforehand, and then he saw this group of people barge straight into the side hall that Zhu Yi is in. In the side hall, Zhu Yi and company were all blankly staring at the group of people that barged in. Upon entering the room, all of their gazes instantly fell upon Zhu Yi's body. The leader is a black-clothed man with a scar on his cheek. The man turned around and looked towards two of his comrades behind him. The two people nodded their heads together. It's this scholar. Outside of the hall, Lin Feng had a major headache, roaring in his heart. That's why I said what I hate the most is unexpected incidents. Even though the other party came abruptly, Zhu Yi could still maintain his composure. You guys are looking for me. I don't know you guys. Who are you people? At this time Fatty Zhu also reacted over, saying with a sneer. Young Master Yi, what trouble have you caused? Could it be that you owe them gambling money? Haha. The black-clothed man frowned. Silence. Fatty Zhu's smile froze on his face, the color of his face turning completely red. You bastard, do you know? Not waiting for him to finish, the black-clothed man waved his hand, as if shooing a fly. Besides this scholar, kill all of the Zhou dogs. The man's voice was incredibly calm, only carrying a taste of disgust, as if he really was giving the command to kill a couple of flies. Fatty Zhu's expression immediately changed greatly, shouting furiously. You dare to touch us? We are of the house of the Marquis of Xuanji. If you dare to touch even one of my fingers, I'll exterminate your entire family. The black-clothed man laughed desolately. Exterminate my entire family? The old and young of my entire clan died by the hands of you Zhou dogs a long time ago. He extended his hand, stroking the scar on his face, his expression becoming extremely cold in an instant. The Marquis of Xuanji. The Marquis of Xuanji. It's precisely because we know this kid is the son of Zhu Hongwu that we came. That old dog's hands are stained with the blood of my countrymen. Today we'll have him pay some interest first. The black-clothed man lifted up the hem of his shirt, revealing the design of a six-cornered snowflake. Snowflake. You guys are survivors of Snow Gale, you guys from the Society of the Strong Gale. Fatty Zhu swallowed his saliva, revealing a very forced smile. Lin Feng furrowed his brows. He doesn't know what kind of organization the Society of the Strong Gale is, and he's never heard of it, but he has heard of Snow Gale. Snow Gale is a small country in the snowy plains to the north and touches borders with the northern region of the Great Zhou Dynasty. Around 10 years ago, during the Zhou Dynasty's time of dominating expansion, it was conquered and annexed by the Zhou Dynasty. At the time, the one who led the army in the conquest was precisely the Marquis of Xuanji. The people of the north are agile and brave. Even though their country has fallen, the citizens of Snowgale have not been willing to submit, with all kinds of uprisings rising up one after another. It is one of the few regions that has not been able to return to a stable state after the subjugation of the Zhou dynasty. Looking at it now, this so-called Society of the Strong Gale is also an insurgent group formed by the adherents of the already fallen Snow Gale, expressly opposing the Great Zhou dynasty. Although Hudvi thought that they'd have the balls to infiltrate deep into the heart of the Zhou dynasty and move about in the environs of the capital, even placing their sights on the Marquis of Xuanji. Zhu Yi has clearly already understood the relations within, opening his mouth and saying, "I'm just a neglected bastard. If you want to use me as a hostage to threaten my father, then there's really no need. Because it won't have any effect, my father will not make any concessions. Kill me and my father won't even feel that sad. You guys have found the completely wrong target coming to find me. The black-clothed man grinned. Of course I know that you're unpopular with the old dog, or else you wouldn't have landed in our hands today. He stared at Zhu Yi with a shadow of a smile. Don't belittle yourself, for us you still have some use. For example, you grew up in the old dog's house, you're presumably very knowledgeable about the layout of the house, the habits of everyone, the schedule of the guards and these kinds of things. Zhu Yi pressed his lips together, not saying anything. Suddenly the sound of wind rose up beside his ears. Shocked he found that the black-clothed middle-aged man had already arrived before him at some unknown time. The two people were inches away. The black-clothed man's face revealed an ice-cold smile, his long scar twitching and twisting. He said one word at a time. You will tell me. Finishing speaking he turned around and looked at Fatty Zhu and company, his gaze like looking at a group of dead people. He waved his hands. Do it. With his command the cultivators of the Society of the Strong Gale all attacked. Piercing cold mana fluctuations instantly swept over the entire temple. These cultivators are all wanted felons within the great Zhou dynasty, each of them are knife-licking desperados. They are all seasoned combatants and have strong teamwork. Their efficiency at releasing spells is very high, not wasting the slightest bit of mana, using the most efficient method to kill the enemy. Fatty Zhu and company have never seen this kind of battle. The group of people were completely powerless, being brought down in batches like wheat being cut down. Only Fatty Zhu, who had the highest level of Qi Disciple level 8, reacted the quickest, his fat body releasing a completely mismatched speed, escaping out of the temple like he was flying. The black-clothed man frowned. Don't leave any survivors, our whereabouts cannot be exposed. Two cultivators of the Society of the Strong Gale nodded their heads, pursuing out of the side hall without saying anything. Outside of the hall Lin Feng was secretly groaning. The development of things has already strayed far away from his initial plans. Luckily they don't have plans of immediately killing Zhu Yi. This thus gives him time to plan. His thoughts rapidly turning, Lin Feng had a general plan, hurriedly chasing over to Fatty Zhu. This fatty still has a purpose, he can't die. Chapter 34. Buddhist Disciple. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Leaving the old temple, Lin Feng crushed a voice-transmitting crystal while hurrying along. A faint white light rose up from the fragments of the crystal. Lin Feng said. Little Yen, bring along your junior and come to Spring Mountain west of the city to meet up with Master TL. The Chinese nickname that Lin Feng calls Xiao Yan is Xiao Yan Zi, which sounds the same as the name of the protagonist Princess of My Fair Princess or Return of the Pearl Princess. I know not if this is intentional. Very quickly Xiao Yan's voice came from the white light. The young man's voice was breathless. He quickly responded saying, Don't worry, we'll be there soon. After one line the white light gradually dimmed, the crystal fragments also became lackluster, becoming the same as regular crushed stones. Lin Feng shook his head. This voice-transmitting crystal is indeed handy, but unfortunately it's just a one-time item and its price is too expensive. Xiao Yan's hurried voice made him a bit uneasy. The breathless appearance was like he had just fought with someone else. Lin Feng slightly knit his brows. Those two monkeys better be alright. After being together for a long period of time, the relationship between the three people has become increasingly closer. Even though he knows that these two main character disciples won't be easily bullied, Lin Feng is always worrying for these two kids who have yet to grow up. Lightly shaking his head, Lin Feng expelled the distractions in his mind, using the escape technique of Cloud Dragon Escape to arrive a step ahead at a location that Fatty Zhu must pass. By in his escape, laying down the formation of the Nine Heaven Thunder summoning. Just finishing setting it up, Fatty Zhu had already appeared in his sights, completely out of breath from running. Since knowing that the people who came were from the Society of the Strong Gale, Fatty Zhu completely gave up on the plan of using his background to scare them. The person these survivors of Snowgale hate the most is probably the Marquis of Xuanji. They can't do anything with the Marquis of Xuanji, but against Fatty Zhu, this kind of dog of the house, they will definitely not hesitate. In the house of the Marquis, Fatty Zhu's status is very high. The closer the relationship to the Marquis of Xuanji, the harder they'll hit. Dad, Mom, why did you guys only give me 2 legs? Fatty Zhu groaned incessantly in his heart. He may have a level of Qi disciple level 8, but the 2 people chasing him are all Qi disciple level 9. Even though he already mustered up every bit of strength he could, in the end they still caught up to him. Right when the fatty felt despair, 9 points of bluish-purple light suddenly lit up in the surroundings. Zzz. The piercing sound of electric currents rose up in the air, bluish-purple arcs of lightning flashed a brilliant radiance in the dark night. The expressions of the 2 cultivators of the Society of the Strong Gale changed greatly. Their experience from numerous fights tells them that impending doom is at hand. But not waiting for them to have any further reactions, 9 beams of lightning had already bombarded their bodies. In the next instant, roaring lightning descended from the heavens as if divine punishment. 2 Qi disciple level 9 cultivators were directly struck to death on the spot by divine lightning. Fatty Zhu blankly stared at the charcoal-black ashes before him, his 2 legs shaking as if the lightning had struck him and he was the one turned into charcoal. Even though he's escaped danger, Fatty Zhu is unable to relax his mood. Lin Feng slowly walked out from the forest, a white robe with wide sleeves and a Taoist crown, having the appearance of a venerable sage. Looking at the ashes after the bombardment of the 9 heaven thunder summoning, Lin Feng secretly let out a breath of relief. Luckily he wasn't too far off on calculating Fatty Zhu's position of being caught up to. Besides setting up requiring time and the casting time being too slow, the 9 heaven thunder summoning is still greatly to his satisfaction, directly killing 2 Qi disciple level 9 cultivators. If he didn't use the 9 heaven thunder summoning, dealing with these 2 Qi disciple level 9 cultivators would not be this easy. The level of these 2 people is a lot higher than that cultivator from the Yu family before, but nonetheless Lin Feng's level is also incomparable to the him of that time. When the water rises so does the boat. The power of the 9 heaven thunder summoning has also increased more than 1 level. After getting a clear view of Lin Feng, Fatty Zhu collected himself, releasing a dry cough. Thank you for giving a helping hand, all of these Snowgale scum deserve to die. Upon meeting them all citizens of our great Zhou dynasty are naturally duty-bound to. Not finishing speaking, a beam of lightning flew past the fatty's ear, splitting in half right down the middle of the big tree behind him. Lin Feng didn't even look at him, his gaze looking towards the temple Zhu Yi is in, his mouth calmly saying. Don't be noisy beside my ears, leave the thing behind and get out. Fatty Zhu swallowed his saliva. I will definitely report to the Marquis your achievement of helping out today. Lin Feng's gaze finally looked towards him, not carrying a hint of emotion, calmly saying. When I have time in the future I will naturally pay a visit to Zhu Hongwu. As for you. I never say the same words twice. All of Fatty Zhu's hairs stood up. Listen to what this young Taoist calls the Marquis of Xuanji. He directly calls his name, Zhu Hongwu. Regardless of what this young Taoist's level is and regardless of whether or not he still dares to be so arrogant after meeting the Marquis of Xuanji in person, the fatty is certain that at the very least the name of the Marquis of Xuanji is unable to frighten this young Taoist. The fatty called out unlucky in his heart. In the past, using the name of the house of the Marquis, he could do whatever he wanted in all of Tianjing City, but he didn't expect that in one day he consecutively bumped into 2 groups of people who didn't place the house of the Marquis in their eyes. Touching the golden paper in his shirt printed with the Kitagarbha Sutra, the fatty was very reluctant. Of course he knows what Lin Feng wants, but he still couldn't help pretend. Thing. What thing? I don't know. Lin Feng's gaze gradually became cold, making Fatty Zhu's entire body also feel increasingly colder, hurriedly saying. Don't be hasty, the item is here, right here. Taking out the golden paper incredibly reluctantly from his shirt, the fatty carefully placed the golden paper on the ground, saying with a forced smile. Can I leave now? Lin Feng casually lifted his hand, grabbing the golden paper in his hand under the drawing force of the mana and leaving without even turning his head. Fatty Zhu felt that the mana Lin Feng used to grab the golden paper did not seem to be outstanding. Slightly hesitating in his heart, he closely examined him again, discovering that he was entirely unable to see through the depths of Lin Feng's level. He didn't dare to act rashly again, obediently standing on the spot and watching Lin Feng leave. Seeing Lin Feng disappear from his vision, Fatty Zhu let out a long breath, hurriedly escaping towards Tianjing City. Something big has happened this time, hurrying back to report to the lady is what's the right thing to do. Losing the Kitagarbha Sutra that he'd obtained, the fatty felt incredibly heartbroken. Damn it, don't land in my hands or else I'll definitely show you who's boss. Lin Feng did not actually leave, he was hiding right in the forest, watching Fatty Zhu escape towards Tianjing City. He needs a person to go back and notify the house of the Marquis. No matter how unfavored Zhu Yi is, he is still the son of the Marquis of Xuanji. Being abducted and moreover involving the adherents of Snowgale, no matter if it's the Marquis of Xuanji or Lady Xiao, they will both definitely concern themselves with it. Only with the pursuers of the house of the Marquis of Xuanji can Lin Feng tie down the people from the Society of the Strong Gale and take advantage of the situation. Lin Feng sent out his senses. The crystal that he left with Zhu Yi shouldn't have been exposed, it was clearly pointing out to him Zhu Yi's location. The people of the Society of the Strong Gale have already taken Zhu Yi and left the old temple, moving towards the mountains to the east. Lin Feng followed far behind them. After an unknown amount of time, Lin Feng sensed the mark that he'd left on Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian, hurriedly heading towards the mark and finding them. Just meeting them, Lin Feng immediately frowned. Xiao Budian's still okay, but Xiao Yan's black clothes are ripped in many places and his aura is unstable, clearly he's just had a hard battle with someone. Lin Feng held on to his shoulders. Who did it? Xiao Yan smiled. Don't worry, master, I didn't lose much. He paused and then said. Originally it was just a small matter. Me and junior apprentice brother were wandering around in the city square of Tianjing City and saw a couple of lechers bullying a woman, so we butted in. After teaching those lechers a lesson, we were originally already prepared to leave, but we were suddenly stopped by a short-haired middle-aged man. He had to ask me where I learned the art of Akala. This guy was very overbearing and wanted to capture me. His level is very high, probably a foundation establishment stage cultivator. If he didn't attract the attention of the patrol squad, it would have been very hard for us to escape. Speaking here, Xiao Yan lifted his eyebrow in confusion. But the Dao technique that person used was actually also the art of Akala. Xiao Budian at the side suddenly said. That person had short hair, I saw that he had a couple of precept scars on his scalp. TL. Go look at Krillin's head. Lin Feng did not say anything, but he already understood in his heart that even though that person has hair, he is most likely a monk from the Great Thunder Monastery of the past. Hudvi thought that Xiao Yan's art of Akala did not attract the attention of the forces of the Great Zhou dynasty but instead attracted a Buddhist disciple. Right now I have to go chase after your new junior apprentice. Brother, he's been abducted. Lin Feng nodded his head, looking at Xiao Yan and saying. But we cannot just let things go. Remember that person's appearance, we'll get him back in the future. Xiao Yan nodded his head while Xiao Budian smiled, saying. I've got another senior apprentice. Brother. Lin Feng laughed and patted his little head. This was your choosing. In the forest east of Spring Mountain, the people of the Society of the Strong Gale were rapidly advancing with Zhu Yi. The leading black-clothed man touched the scar on his face, saying with a frown. Hui Ku still hasn't rendezvoused with us. A person at his side responded, saying. Not yet, let's not wait for him anymore. He's always so unruly, so what if he comes from the Great Thunder Monastery? Before the black-clothed man could say anything, a booming voice rose up in the forest. Not much, I'm just stronger than all of you. While speaking a short Haired man wearing gray clothes walked out from the dense forest. The man had a gloomy expression, the short hair on his head could not hide the 6 conspicuous precept scars on his scalp. Chapter 35. The pursuers arrive. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Lin Feng pursued behind the people of the SSG. While walking he took out an old book from his shirt, ripping out a page and throwing it on the ground while his 2 disciples weren't paying attention, so as to leave behind a trail for the pursuers of the house of the Marquis of Xuanji to follow. Master, why are we following behind like thieves in the night? Xiao Yan asked in puzzlement. Why don't you just directly go up and save him? Lin Feng said with a calm expression. Their every move is within Master's eyes. Right now I'm in no rush to save him. Master wants to first observe him for a bit to see exactly how is the temperament and will of this new junior of yours. Let's see how he performs under this kind of adverse danger. Lin Feng glanced at Xiao Yan with a smile. I had also seriously observed you too, if not that you still persisted and did not give up in adversity, Master would not have taken you as a disciple. Xiao Yan also smiled, nodding his head convinced and not saying anything more. Suddenly thinking of something, Lin Feng asked. Little Yan, was that monk you guys encounter able to cultivate Fury Aquila flames? Lin Feng's art of Aquila is only the upper half. Even though one is still able to practice it, it has its limits. Moreover, one is unable to cultivate the sublime ability of this Dao technique, the Fury Aquila flames. Xiao Yan just assumes that Lin Feng wants to teach him the Dao technique step by step, so he's never suspected anything. Hearing Lin Feng ask him right now, he answered saying, I'm not sure. We alerted the patrolling squadron and they surrounded that monk. Afterwards he released a terrifying green-colored flame and broke free. The mana flames cultivated by regular fire class Dao technique are all orange. According to the records of the Dao technique of the art of Aquila, the Fury Aquila flames should be pure gold. Xiao Yan lifted his brow in confusion. Yet the fire that monk released is green, but the Dao technique he practices is definitely the art of Aquila, no mistake. After thinking for a moment, Lin Feng came to a conclusion. The art of Aquila that monk practices is incomplete, in addition it's most like missing the most important opening chapter that contains the general principles. The content of Dao techniques is naturally more profound the further in, but the beginning of the art of Aquila has a couple of verses about the general principles that touches briefly on the essentials. It appears shallow, but it is actually the basis of the entire Dao technique. Missing these few verses, even if the rest of the Dao technique is complete, it is very easy for one to go the wrong direction when practicing it. Even if one is able to finish practicing the entire art of Aquila, it'll be like a castle in the air without a good foundation. Shaking and crumbling. Lin Feng may not have the lower half content of the art of Aquila, but the upper half he possesses is very complete, not a single word is wrong. Xiao Yan also practices it meticulously. That monk spent his entire life studying the art of Aquila. Naturally he can tell with a glance that the art of Aquila Xiao Yan practices contains the general principle verses, which is why he coveted it and acted out to capture Xiao Yan. After listening, Xiao Yan asked with a grin. Master, the art of Aquila I practice is also incomplete, when will you teach the lower half to me? Lin Feng smiled saying. Don't bite off more than you can chew, learn what you know first. After sending away Xiao Yan, Lin Feng laughed coldly in his heart. Touch my disciple, rob my manual. Damn Baldy, let's see who robs who. This group of people from the SSG have clearly lurked around in the center of the Zhou dynasty for a long time. Not only are they familiar with the surrounding land, they've even set up many secret reinforcement posts and have a complete evacuation route and plan. But with Lin Feng constantly pointing the way, their location was clearly exposed. In not even 3 days' time the pursuers of the house of the Marquis of Xuanji had already bitten their tails. Even though they still haven't pinpointed their location, the pursuers have already circled over from all directions, blocking the people of the SSG in a mountain and constantly narrowing the encirclement. Lin Feng brought along his two disciples and became increasingly more cautious, hiding his tracks to avoid getting caught up in trouble. In the mountain the group of people rapidly advanced. The leader is a bald old man, he has an aquiline nose and deep sunken eyes. He's the spitting image of a vulture. TL. Bald as in a bald spot on his head. The bald old man suddenly stopped his feet, the people behind him also all stopped. The old man's cold gaze swept the surroundings but did not discover anything. A person behind him asked in a low voice. "Mr. Vulture, is there something wrong?" Mr. Vulture's eyes flashed, he was silent and did not speak. Suddenly a white bone flew out from his sleeve. That seems to be the thigh bone of some creature, it is as white as polished jade and crystal clear, one side of the bone stick is very thick, looking like a hammer. The bone stick flew into the air, growing as it went along. Originally it was 1 foot long but in the end it had a length of a whole dozen meters. It was as thick as a water bucket and a thick aura of evil charged out from the bone stick, frightening all of the creatures in the forest and making them feel fear as if they were about to die. Mr. Vulture waved his hand, the bone stick flew up carrying the sound of a tempest, hitting a small mountain in the distance. With a loud bang, the massive mountain peak was directly smashed into pieces by the massive bone hammer. Countless mountain rocks rolled down the mountain, dirt and dust rose upwards covering the sky. The bone stick returned above Mr. Vulture's head and turned back to a length of 1 foot, going into Mr. Vulture's sleeves. Seeing everybody look towards him, Mr. Vulture released a displeased tut. "I felt like someone was prying on us, looks like I was oversensitive, let's go." The group of people continued on their way, disappearing in the dense mountain. On a mountain beside the destroyed mountain peak, Lin Feng and company hid their aura. After watching the bald old man and his party leave, Xiao Yan breathed a sigh of relief. That old geezer is a Foundation establishment stage cultivator, right? Lin Feng nodded his head. He wasn't worried that he would be discovered, the key is Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian could very easily expose their whereabouts. Although, even if we expose ourselves a bit it's okay. Lin Feng chuckled. The bald old man doesn't know that they're already very close to the people of the SSG, with this the old geezer will definitely have alarmed them. Sure enough, after a moment fierce mana fluctuations traveled over from within the valley in front. Lin Feng and company approached nearby, seeing that in the dry valley Mr. Vulture and his party had surrounded a grey-clothed man in the middle, engaging in an intense battle. Mr. Vulture's bone stick had turned back into a massive dozen-meter-long stick sweeping up and down. With him as the main force the cultivators released all kinds of spells, surrounding the grey-clothed man and giving him a beat down. Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian looked at each other, lowering their voices and saying, "Master, that guy wearing the grey clothes is monk that intercepted us." Lin Feng focused his eyes and looked over. The grey-clothed man has a head of spiky short hair, 6 precept scars can be faintly seen on his scalp. Even though he's at a disadvantage this person is still calm and unhurried, light-green flames burst forth around his body, burning fiercely. The instant the opponent's spells touched the green flames they would instantly be burned to nothingness. Some people also used fire-class spells to attack him, but the green flames were truly domineering, even treating the raging orange flames as fuel and burning them. The group of people attacked him for a long time but the grey-clothed monk's green flames instead became increasingly more powerful, the intensity of the fire increasingly greater. Only Mr. Vulture's bone stick magic item could threaten the grey-clothed monk, even the green flames could not block it, forcing the grey-clothed monk to dodge. While controlling his magic item Mr. Vulture spoke out to mess with his mind. "Monk, those people of the Society of the Strong Gale are clearly treating you as cannon fodder, leaving you behind to bring up the rear. Only an idiot like you would believe in their words." The grey-clothed monk Hui Ku was a bit infuriated. Originally he volunteered to bring up the rear because he wanted to show off his skills, but he didn't guess that he would instead be entangled by the enemy. How can he convince the people of the SSG like this? Hui Ku said in his heart. After this I have to capture that kid I met that day. If I am able to cultivate the true fury Aquila fire, why would I have to work so hard? While thinking, a beam of sword aura suddenly flew over from far away, chopping down right above Hui Ku's head. The green flames were actually completely unable to stop it. Hui Ku was greatly shocked, getting out of the way and dodging. The sword aura missed, cutting a mountain peak behind Hui Ku, actually slicing apart the mountain peak. The massive mountain top rolled downwards. In the loud rumbling sound the earth moved and the mountains shook as if an earthquake. After the mountain peak landed, the sliced surface of the mountain was smooth as a mirror. Lin Feng, who was hiding at the side, slightly frowned. What a powerful sword cultivator! His level is at the foundation establishment stage and he possesses a high-grade flying sword. A black-clothed swordsman appeared at the scene, his venomous eyes staring at Hui Ku. Hui Ku stared at the black-clothed swordsman, but he didn't dare to place all of his attention on him alone. The corner of his eyes looked towards the other direction, and as expected, a white-robed middle-aged man slowly walked out of the forest. He had the appearance of a scholar, but those vast mana fluctuations said that he is a foundation establishment stage cultivator on the same level as the black-clothed swordsman and Mr. Vulture. Who could have guessed that the leftover evil of the Great Thunder Monastery actually mixed together with the Society of the Strong Gale? The white-robed scholar exclaimed in amazement. While examining Hui Ku, he lifted his hand and sent out a couple of white lights. The white lights flew into the air and exploded, turning into a curtain of light and enveloping the surrounding mountains. Hui Ku stared at him coldly. The white-robed scholar said coolly. The surroundings have already been sealed by my formation, you can't escape. Finishing speaking, he and the black-clothed swordsman along with Mr. Vulture formed a triangle, surrounding Hui Ku in the middle, while the other Chi disciple stage cultivators were spread out in the outer ring. Lin Feng furrowed his brows. The levels of these three people are all about the same as Hui Ku's. With 3 against 1, don't mention escaping, even taking one down with him is already pretty good for Hui Ku. The most probable outcome is that he'll even be caught alive. Lin Feng was in the middle of thinking when he suddenly saw a vile smile surface on Hui Ku's face, completely out of line with his identity as a monk. The gray-clothed monk said with a laugh. The ones who can't escape are you guys. Before his voice had even died away, Hui Ku threw up his hand, 24 spots of light flew up into the air, forming an intriguing formation. Lin Feng's expression slightly changed. From within that formation he sensed an incredibly terrifying power fluctuation. This kind of danger that reached his soul is something that he also felt before from that Aurus Core stage elder of the Blaze Sword sect. Chapter 36. Fierce Monk, 24 Heaven Arhat Formation. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Lin Feng closely looked over, discovering that the 24 spots of light that Hui Ku threw into the air were actually a bunch of brown beads. Each of them were as big as a walnut, emitting a golden radiance in the air. Lin Feng twitched his nose, smelling a faint scent of sandalwood. The 24 beads in the air all revealed a peaceful and grand aura. Facing these 24 beads, Lin Feng felt as if he were facing 24 enlightened monks. The expression of the 3 foundation establishment stage cultivators surrounding Hui Ku all slightly changed. The white-robed middle-aged man looked at Hui Ku in shock. Sariras, these are Sariras. You actually possess 24 Sariras. Did you refine the Sariras of the elders of your sect into magic items? Hearing this, the expressions of Mr. Vulture and the black-clothed swordsman all became very cloudy. The black-clothed swordsman opened his mouth for the first time since appearing. You betraying scum. In the process of the 24 Sariras rising up into the air, an instant of pain and guilt flashed across Hui Ku's eyes, but afterwards they were filled with endless anger and malice. Hearing the black-clothed swordsman's condemning words, Hui Ku laughed loudly, his expression crazed. Even if I descend into the unintermittent hell, I will make you evil demons pay. This is the path Lord Buddha showed me, my seniors will definitely understand me. He heavily placed his hands together, saying in a deep voice. Buddha is merciful, sweeping away evil, 24 Heaven Arhat formation, open. Following Hui Ku's hasty shout, the 24 Sariras in the air all released a dazzling Buddhist light. The Buddhist light connected together, forming a golden cloud, enveloping the surrounding 1,000 feet around Hui Ku. Waves of Buddhist Zen singing came from the Buddhist light, overlapping with each other resulting in a deafening loudness. Mr. Vulture and company were all enveloped by the Buddhist light, as if they were in a separate space completely cut off from the outside world. The white-robed middle-aged man shook his head. Competing against me on formations. You are no match, monk, you're only asking to be humiliated. Speaking half-way he suddenly stopped. The white-robed middle-aged man looked forward with a stunned expression. Mr. Vulture and the black-clothed swordsman were also the same. The other Chi disciple stage cultivators all trembled in fear. Heavy shadows manifested in the Buddhist light, each of them were over 100 feet tall, their entire bodies flashing with a golden light. They were all Vajra Arhats, each of them releasing an incredibly terrifying aura. There were a total of 24 Arhat light figures, each of their mana fluctuations could compare with a Foundation Establishment Stage cultivator. 24 Foundation Establishment Stage cultivators. Lin Feng and his disciples stared wide-eyed. This monk is way too intense, actually possessing such a fierce magic item. Good heavens, one magic item manifesting 24 Foundation Establishment Stage cultivators. Whoever has a magic item like this can do whatever they want in the Foundation Establishment Stage. Lin Feng swallowed his saliva, incredibly envious. Don't mention Foundation Establishment Stage, even if he bumps into a regular Aurus Core Stage cultivator he'll have the strength to protect himself, no wonder that damn Baldy dared to stay behind on his own. Hui Ku's figure disappeared out of sight, hiding in the Buddhist light. Only the hands of the 24 Arhat light figures came together, chanting. Buddha is merciful, repent and be saved. The voices pierced the soul like the morning bell and evening drum of the temple, making all of the people in the Buddhist light develop an illusion for an instant, as if they were guilty of terrible crimes and deserved to be suppressed and captured, released into reincarnation. The three people are all cultivators who have attained the Foundation Establishment Stage. Their wills are firm and they quickly reacted over. As for those Chi disciple stage cultivators, none of them were hurt but they all slumped to the ground, they've already lost the awareness to resist. Lin Feng felt chills while looking from a mountain at the side. 24 Buddhist Foundation Establishment Stage cultivators shouting together, they don't even need to harm the enemy and are able to overwhelm them, making them lose the will to resist. What weakness does the 24 Heaven Arhat formation have? Because it's a formation, it's not easily moved. Lin Feng's thoughts rapidly turned, thinking of a countermeasure. Extremely heavy mana consumption. Or are these Arhat light figures just empty shells to scare people? Very quickly they used their actions to answer Lin Feng's question. Seeing Mr. Vulture and the other two Foundation Establishment Stage cultivators not submit, the 24 Arhat light figures once again chanted a prayer and then charged over in small groups. The black-clothed swordsman released a cold snort, slashing the golden Arhat with a flash of his sword. Scritch, the piercing sound of grinding metal rose up. The flying sword that can cut down a mountain only opened up a crack on the golden Arhat's chest. The golden Arhat felt nothing, a pair of big hands grabbing towards the flying sword. The black-clothed swordsman manipulated the flying sword and retreated, but there were two other golden Arhats attacking from the left and right. For palms pushing out together, the radiant Buddhist light had practically condensed into a solid state, actually sealing the nimble flying sword in the air. Two other golden Arhats rushed over to the black-clothed swordsman himself, fists as big as a water jar smashing down on his head. Damn Baldy! The black-clothed swordsman's expression paled. All of his cultivation prowess is focused on his flying sword, losing the flying sword his fighting ability is immediately greatly reduced. He can only evade flustered, at the same time doing his best to call back his flying sword. The flying sword struggled desperately in the Buddhist light, emitting a screeching hum. Even the blade became a bit distorted, but no matter what, it was unable to escape from the imprisonment of the Buddhist light. On the contrary, it is the three golden arhats trapping the flying sword that were still constantly increasing their power. 6 giant palms grouped together, the Buddhist light in their palms became increasingly stronger, and thick smoke started to rise up from the black-clothed swordsman's flying sword. The flying sword hummed non-stop as if it were alive, releasing miserable wails. Seeing this, Lin Feng could already completely confirm that this magic item of Hui Ku's really can materialize 24 Foundation Establishment stage Arhat light figures. Perhaps their intelligence is not high enough, perhaps they are not nimble enough, perhaps they look like they can only fight in close quarters and don't know any spells. But in terms of mana, these golden arhats all possess the level of Foundation Establishment stage cultivators. Moreover, they clearly do not feel pain and are not afraid of injury. They can unhesitatingly adopt a life for a life fighting tactic. 10 golden arhats even stayed on the spot and didn't move, the other 14 struck out together, beating the crap out of Mr. Vulture and the other 2 in an instant. With such a grand difference in strength, Mr. Vulture and company won't even have the chance to die while taking one down. Whether it's being captured alive or crushed to death all depends on Hui Ku's mood. Nobody thought beforehand that Hui Ku was actually so fierce. Originally it was a hopeless 1 versus 3 situation, but things turned around in an instant, turning into 24 versus 3. Right now in the hearts of Mr. Vulture and company there were undoubtedly thousands of grassland horses covered in mud running past. TL. See bottom for Chinese internet language lesson. Lin Feng also felt depressed. Xiao Yan, this main character, is truly skillful, the first opponent that he provoked is already so fierce. Even more unexpectedly is that this damn Baldy is actually in cahoots with the SSG that kidnapped Zhu Yi. Protecting Xiao Yan, saving Zhu Yi, to do all of this he has to get past Hui Ku. Thinking here, a cold light flashed in Lin Feng's eyes. I can't let things go so smoothly for him, I've got to knock him down a bit. First I've got to find his weakness. Lin Feng thought for a moment, pulling over Xiao Yan and whispering a few commands in his ear. Xiao Yan was dazed for a moment. What is this for? Lin Feng pretended to be profound, replying faintly. I naturally have my arrangements, all you need is to do as I say. Maybe there's something good for you today here. Xiao Yan curled his lips. Don't fool me, master. Lin Feng raised his hand, scolding with a laugh. Damn brat, you looking for a beating. Xiao Yan stuck out his tongue, swiftly running down the mountain and arriving near the cloud formed by the Buddhist light. He acted according to Lin Feng's instructions, wandering a few rounds around the Buddhist light. He was instantly discovered by Hui Ku, who was in the light cloud. You wear out iron shoes in hunting round, when all the time it's easy to be found. Hui Ku was first overjoyed, but then looking at Mr. Vulture and company in the Buddhist light he then started to feel troubled. I'll deal with these crooks right away, it's such a pity if I give up now. But what if things drag on for too long and that kid runs? After Hui Ku hesitated for a moment, he bit his teeth, opening up his personal bag and letting out a small snake. The little snake grew while it was in the air, actually turning into a giant golden python over 100 meters long. Its head was like the size of a small room and its mouth was filled with sharp fangs as long and thick as an elephant's tusk. Hui Ku extended his hand pointing towards Xiao Yan. I want him alive. The giant golden python landed on the ground, shooting towards Xiao Yan like an arrow. Seeing the giant golden python, Xiao Yan was slightly shocked. While this python slithered, it did not carry any hint of the smell of blood, on the contrary it released a faint sandalwood scent. 2 little bumps bulged up on the giant python's head, as if they were the horns on the head of a flood dragon. Its speed slithering on the ground was fast as lightning. The combat strength of this kind of savage beast is enough to rival a Chi disciple level 10 and above cultivator. Lin Feng's warning floated up in Xiao Yan's head at this moment. If that monk sends out a magic item or spiritual pet to deal with you, do not tangle with it on the spot, just run towards the mountains far away. Xiao Yan twitched his lips, turning around and running. The giant golden python pursued closely behind him. On the mountaintop, Lin Feng watched Xiao Yan and the giant python escaping and chasing, running further and further away, yet in the Buddhist light formation Hui Ku did not chase over. Seeing here, a warm smile like the sun resurfaced on Lin Feng's face. If you're confused about the grassland horses covered in mud running by, then here's the explanation. In Chinese, screw your mom is Chao Ni Ma, which has the same pronunciation, different tone, as Chao Ni Ma, which word for word means grass mud horse. So essentially, thousands of grass mud horses running by in your heart is a more joking way of saying holy crap and stuff like that. Chapter 37. Two Kids Kill a Snake. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Hui Ku only sent out a giant golden python to capture Xiao Yan while he himself still stayed in the Buddhist light formation. Seeing this, Lin Feng understood things clearly. As expected, those 24 golden arhats can only move about within the 1,000-foot area covered by the Buddhist light. As the one directing the formation, that big monk also cannot leave the area of the Buddhist light. In addition, it looks like Hui Ku is putting all of his focus in directing the formation and is unable to use any other cultivation skills. Lin Feng thought in his heart. All that's left is a key point that still can't be confirmed yet, and that is if those 24 Sariras forming the formation are all indispensable. As long as one is missing, will the formation be unable to be maintained? While thinking, Lin Feng quietly said towards Xiao Budian beside him. Go help your senior apprentice. Brother, I leave that snake to you two. Master will not do anything. This could also be considered a test for you guys. Hearing this, Xiao Budian was not flustered, instead he was eager to try and moreover smiled like a thief, saying, Master, if we slaughter that snake, will the blood and meat and stuff all belong to us? Lin Feng knocked on his little head, scolding with a smile. Damn brat, all you know is eating. Xiao Budian laughed. Lin Feng shook his head grumpily. Go then, how much you can gain depends on your ability. Thank you, master. Xiao Budian cried out in joy, disappearing out of sight in the turn of an eye and charging in the direction of Xiao Yan and the giant python. This giant golden python is a natural-born aberration and was trained by Hui Ku using secret Buddhist techniques. Its strength and speed are all shockingly high and far superior to regular beasts. If not that Lin Feng had already passed on to Xiao Yan the cloud dragon escape technique, he would not be able to outrun this giant snake. This guy's like a tiny mountain when it coils up. How come it's so fast with such a massive body? Xiao Yan cursed in his heart, his body suddenly doing a strange turn and avoiding the snake jaw that lunged violently from behind. The giant snake's head is as big as a small house, opening up its big mouth and swallowing Xiao Yan whole is nothing but a piece of cake. Senior, here, over here. Xiao Yan was in the middle of madly sprinting when he suddenly heard Xiao Budian's shouts. Lifting his head and looking over, Xiao Budian was waving his hands at him on a mountain. This kid, could he? With a thought, Xiao Yan instantly changed direction, running towards the mountain Xiao Budian is at. The giant golden python followed closely behind him, sweeping through all obstructions. Where its massive body passed by, rocks burst and towering old tree fell down in groups like cut wheat. Let me test your might. On the mountaintop, Xiao Budian rose up into the air, his body like an extraordinary cloud dragon, rushing straight towards the giant golden python's head. The giant golden python released a soundless roar, its big mouth biting towards Xiao Budian. Yet Xiao Budian's body flashed in the air, dodging the snake's blood pool like mouth and nimbly landing on the snake's neck. Xiao Budian grinned, saying, You hit the snake at the 7th inch, you may be big but I can still figure out where your 7th inch is. Finishing speaking, he lifted his leg and kicked the giant snake's body. For certain snakes the 7th inch is where the heart is, obviously it's different for different snakes. Overall it just means hit where it hurts. Lightning flashed at the tip of his feet, his tiny body bringing about rumbling thunder. His spirit and atmosphere was not the slightest bit weaker than the giant golden python's. The lightning exploded, stirring up beams of golden light and a touch of blood red. Those are snake scales and snake blood. With one kick of Xiao Budian's the giant golden python became wounded. The giant python released an angry cry, suddenly twisting its body, its thick golden tail sweeping across and whipping towards Xiao Budian. If this hits, regardless of how strong Xiao Budian's body is, he'll still be turned into mush. But Xiao Budian did not meet it head-on, his body nimbly evading to the side and dodging the giant python's retaliation. Xiao Yan, who was being chased by the giant python the whole time, silently appeared at this time. After evading the giant python's tail sweep, he arrived on its back. His goal was precisely the wound that Xiao Budian had just created. A hint of aggression surfaced on Xiao Yan's face. "You elongated bug, you had a lot of fun chasing me just now, huh?" Flipping his palm, bursting fire mana rapidly gathered, turning into real flames and burning above Xiao Yan's palm. The next moment the blazing fire seemed to have been suppressed. Xiao Yan did not let the flames continue to spread out, instead he was compressing it towards the center. He extended his two hands outwards, his two palms facing each other with a distance of 1 foot. The crimson-red flames continuously compressed together between his two palms, in the end becoming a tiny red ball of light. The ball of light may be small, but it harbors terrifying heat and explosive power. It was like a tiny sun, filled with an oppressive, destructive aura. It is precisely the secret technique of the Void Temple that Yan Mingyue passed on to Xiao Yan, Red Lotus Burst. The tiny ball of light is only as big as a human's fist, its size is completely disproportional to the giant golden python, but the giant golden python sensed danger at the first moment. In a pair of cold, slit dot-like pupils revealed a color of fear. Xiao Yan's hands pushed forward, the tiny red-colored ball of light flying towards the wound on the giant python. The giant golden python wanted to dodge, but the ball of light's flying speed was exceedingly quick, not giving it any chance to evade and directly hitting its target. Time seemed to pause for an instant at this moment, and then the frozen scene suddenly shattered, violent flames exploded with a roar, the powerful strength as if wanting to shatter this area of space. Hiss! The giant golden python released heavy cries, half of its body was engulfed in flames, rolling around in pain in the mountains. Even though Lin Feng was paying close attention to the battle of Hui Ku and company, he still split out half of his focus watching over Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian. Seeing his two disciples working closely together and beating the crap out of that giant 100-meter-long python, Lin Feng spread his lips. These two brats, they really are merciless. Shaking his head, Lin Feng felt that there was nothing to be concerned about anymore with this battle, but suddenly sensing something, he sensed that a change had occurred to the giant golden python. In the screaming cries, the giant golden python opened its mouth wide, beams of golden light suddenly burst out from its mouth. Waves of Buddhist chanting actually came out from its mouth, a boundless Buddhist mana fluctuation spread outward. Lin Feng closely looked over, seeing a small mass of light slowly rise up from the giant python's mouth. It burned so strongly that it was difficult to open one's eyes. The Buddhist light and chanting came precisely from this mass of light. The mass of light leaving the giant python's body, the golden scales on the giant python's body became a lot fainter. The fragrance of sandalwood vanished and the strong stench of a snake came forth. The giant python opened wide a pair of vertical dot-like pupils, coldly staring at Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian, its gaze filled with monstrous killing intent. The two kids also instantly realized that something was wrong, splitting up and escaping to the left and right. After they just left the spot that they were originally standing at, a brilliant beam of golden light shot out from the mass of light in the snake's mouth, smashing into the mountain. The golden light disappearing, a clear round hole appeared at the center of the massive mountain, through the hole one can clearly see the scenery in the distance. This beam of golden light directly pierced through the entire mountain. Lin Feng was slightly shocked. This power could already compare to the attack of a Foundation establishment stage cultivator. At this time he could already clearly see that at the center of the mass of light is a strangely shaped magic item. Mana fluctuations constantly surged. Even though it was deep and powerful, it was not stable enough. This magic item has been damaged before. With a turn of his mind, Lin Feng instantly understood. This big monk really has a good plan. Hui Ku is actually using the vital energy of the abnormal snake to nurture the damaged magic item, thereby making the magic item recover faster, and at the same time also using the spiritual energy of the magic item to nourish this giant python, making the giant python even stronger and quickly increasing its strength. But like this, Lin Feng is unable to sit still. This giant python has already become a huge threat towards Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian. Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian also realize that this giant snake is about to get serious. Xiao Budian yelled, saying, "Don't fret, senior apprentice. Brother, if it didn't have a bit of skill, then my arrangements would have been wasted." While speaking, Xiao Budian brought his hands together, forming a spell sign and shouting, "Move!" 9 violet dots of light rose up in the surroundings of the mountain. In the sound of violent currents, 9 arcs of lightning shot towards the giant golden python. Lin Feng has already established his master impression in the hearts of his 2 disciples. Like this, some things he does not hide anymore and can pass on to his disciples to increase their strength. Right now Xiao Budian has unleashed the 9 heavens thunder summoning that Lin Feng taught him. The initial 9 arcs of lightning did not cause much damage to the giant python, but the next moment the lightning that descended from the skies bombarded its body, directly splitting off the lower half of its body including its tail. The powerful attack of formations borrowing the energy of the world was perfectly embodied at this moment. Xiao Yan watched at this side, unable to resist letting out a cheer. "Nice. Beautiful. Careful, dodge." Xiao Budian was in the middle of feeling pleased with himself. Only when he heard Xiao Yan's warning did he discover that after suffering such a heavy injury, the giant golden python instead became completely wild. Its massive head abruptly rose up, towering over Xiao Budian, who was caught off guard. Its mouth opening wide, scriptures flowed on the golden magic item and radiant golden light once again condensed. The next instant it was about to smash right into Xiao Budian. Chapter 38. The correct way to capture the opponent alive. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Xiao Budian felt the sky above his head suddenly darken. That was the giant python's head. The next moment the darkness above his head suddenly lit up again, so bright that one could not even open one's eyes. That is the light emitted by the magic item in the giant python's mouth. Terrifyingly powerful mana fluctuations spread outward. Dodge! Xiao Yan suddenly charged over from the side, knocking Xiao Budian out of the way. Xiao Budian may have escaped from the giant python's attack range, but Xiao Yan has exposed himself beneath the snake's mouth, facing head on that terrifying Buddhist magic item. Xiao Budian cried out in shock. Eldest apprentice. Brother. The boldness in the black-clothed youth's heart was completely aroused. Facing the radiant golden Buddhist light he did not dodge or evade, lifting up his 2 hands. Between his hands floated a crimson-red orb of light filled with a blazing, destructive aura. Let's see who dies first. Xiao Yan clenched his teeth, facing head on the Buddhist light that can turn him into dust with one hit and preemptively releasing Red Lotus Burst. The red orb of light turned into a beam of crimson light, flying into the giant python's wide-opened mouth. At the same time, that Buddhist magic item in the snake's mouth had accumulated mana to the extreme, turning into a beam of radiant Buddhist light and smashing towards Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan's Red Lotus Burst was a step faster, taking the lead and exploding in the snake's mouth only 1/1000th of a second faster than the Buddhist light. But the unstoppable Buddhist light has already taken form. Will it dissipate due to this explosion? Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian both did not know the answer, because a white arc of lightning even more domineering and violent than the Buddhist light flashed across the sky, striking the giant python's head a step faster than the red lotus burst. Northern Aurora Mystic Light. The domineering lightning directly opened up a hole in the giant golden python's head. After piercing through the snake's head, it heavily struck that Buddhist magic item. The magic item released a resonant ring. It was forced to use all of the Buddhist light that it originally planned on using to attack Xiao Yan to protect itself, no longer having the strength to attack. At this time Xiao Yan's red lotus burst finally exploded in the snake's mouth, directly blowing up into a bloody mist the giant python's already heavily wounded head. Master! Xiao Budian cheered loudly. Xiao Yan was also covered in cold sweat at this moment. Master, you almost killed me. Lin Feng swiftly landed beside them, a body of Taoist clothing appearing even more dashing and divine in the battle-raised mountains. Lifting his hand and catching the Buddhist magic item that fell from the air, Lin Feng turning his head and smiled at Xiao Yan saying, I already said that you might have a fortuitous encounter today and that there would be threats but no danger. While speaking, Lin Feng raised up the Buddhist magic item in his hand and shook it. When I erase the restrictions set by the original owner, this thing will belong to you. Xiao Yan was exalted. All things considered, I didn't put my life on the line for nothing. Lin Feng looked at him with a smile. Little Yan, I'm proud of you, you've got the attitude of an eldest apprentice. Brother. At this time Xiao Budian pounced over and grabbed Xiao Yan's hand. Yeah, senior apprentice. Brother, it's all thanks to you just now. Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows, saying smugly. Don't sweat it. But who knew that Xiao Budian continued to say. Even though I could also dodge it myself, but I still have to thank you. Instantly making Xiao Yan not sure whether he should laugh or cry. Feels like this junior apprentice. Brother is even more smug than he is. Xiao Budian then turned his head toward Lin Feng and asked. Master, that magic item goes to senior apprentice. Brother, what about me? Lin Feng pointed at the already dead giant python. Didn't you have your mind on it? It's all yours, how much you can take depends on you. Pausing for a moment, Lin Feng continued to say. Collect some more snake blood, you also have to take the snake bile. You're almost 5 years old, these things are all good materials for your baptism. Xiao Budian let out a cheer and then charged towards the giant python. He may be young, but when he was in the village he went hunting with the men. Collecting these materials is a familiar task for him. Hearing Lin Feng wanting to give Xiao Budian a baptism, Xiao Yan also went and helped out. A child's baptism at the age of 5 has a very important effect on their body. Xiao Yan couldn't help imagining things. Junior apprentice. Brother's talent is already so high, if he then goes through a baptism, how terrifying will that be? Just thinking about it makes people look forward to it. While his 2 disciples were busy at the side butchering the giant python, Lin Feng's attention had already returned over to Hui Ku and company. Not sure if it's because he sensed the giant python being killed and his magic item getting robbed, but large ripples arose in Hui Ku's mind and he was nearly unable to maintain that overpowering 24 heaven Arhat formation. Originally, facing this hopeless situation of certain death, Mr. Vulture and company were already about to give up all hope, but they didn't expect that something wrong would happen with Hui Ku himself. The 3 people in the formation instantly sensed the changes within, hope rising up again in their hearts. The 3 people all knew that it was already at the moment of life or death, all of them releasing their strongest skills. They don't ask to defeat Hui Ku, only hoping to be able to get out of the Buddhist light formation. The 3 people fought desperately together and Hui Ku was also not in his best condition. Like this they were actually able to charge out of the formation. Seeing that he was about to lose everything, Hui Ku howled in anger, just barely gathering his focus and circulating the power of the 24 heaven Arhat formation to the extreme. The 24 Arhat light figures gathered together, chanting the name of Buddha together. The Buddhist light above their heads came together, forming 2 massive hands that covered the sky. The two massive Buddhist palms descended from the sky, directly slapping the white-robed middle-aged man and the black-clothed swordsman to the ground. But they missed out Mr. Vulture. How could the bald old man care about his companions at this time, a mouth of vital blood spraying onto the bone stick magic item? The jade-white bone stick became increasingly more crystal clear with a faint red glow flashing, directly turning into a length of over 100 meters and heavily smashing the Buddhist light formation, directly piercing through the Buddhist light and carrying Mr. Vulture charging out of the area of the formation. Hui Ku was furious, the massive palms formed by the Buddhist light striking towards Mr. Vulture. Mr. Vulture raised the bone stick, just barely blocking the attack but coughing out blood from the attack. Almost all of his mana was scattered from the attack. Taking this hit, Mr. Vulture and the bone stick were sent flying together, directly going over a mountain and falling in a forest a dozen miles away. Mr. Vulture lay on the ground, coughing out another mouth of blood. He felt like all of the bones in his body had been broken into pieces and that even his internal organs had changed places. This monk is so ruthless, actually refining the sariras of his elders into magic items. It's no good, I have to go back and get more experts here to be able to subdue this cur. Mr. Vulture struggled up from the ground and also felt a bit rejoiced in his heart. 3 people were trapped and only he was able to successfully escape. And yet, when his thoughts reached this point, Mr. Vulture suddenly felt his scalp go numb and his hairs stand up, as if some calamity was about to descend upon him. Feeling that something was wrong, he was just about to react but was still too late. Without any noise, Lin Feng appeared behind him. In his hand was precisely Mr. Vulture's bone stick magic item. Right now it had already shrunk to its original length of 1 foot and was being used by Lin Feng as a hammer, hitting the back of Mr. Vulture's head with a bam. Mr. Vulture cried aloud, his eyes dizzy, but even though he was gravely injured his mana still surged wildly, desperately fighting back and not wanting himself to faint over, moreover wanting to turn around and see who exactly it is. But just turning his head around, a mass of snow-white had already come down before he could see anyone, the bone stick magic item once again striking down and hitting his forehead. Bam! Mr. Vulture's eyes rolled over and he fainted. The last thought in his mind was, this giant bone stick, how come it seems to be my bone mace? Lin Feng weighed the bone mace in his hands. This magic item is severely weakened from being hit by the giant Buddhist hands. Hui Ku materialized, it didn't resist at all when Lin Feng held it in his hands to attack its master. The mana fluctuations in the magic item are also very weak, looks like it needs to recuperate for a long time to be able to return to normal. Although it's pretty handy treating it as a hammer to hit people, its length, thickness and weight are all just right. While thinking, Lin Feng suddenly discovered that his 2 disciples beside him were all looking at him with a blank look, their eyes shifting between Lin Feng and the bone mace in his hands. Lin Feng's expression was calm, letting out a dry cough. Did you guys see clearly? Using the Baihui point above the head as a marker and moving forwards or backwards 1 inch, hitting these 2 spots can make people quickly lose conscious. Did you guys learn it? Xiao Budian blankly nodded his head while Xiao Yan's lips twitched. Master, isn't this just a sneak attack? Wrong, Master is showing to you guys the correct way to capture the opponent alive. Lin Feng said seriously. If you guys didn't pay attention, then Master will demonstrate it one more time. While speaking, Lin Feng released a sliver of thunder mana, stimulating Mr. Vulture's nerve points and making him wake up. The bald old man woke up, murmuring. What happened? I think someone attacked me from behind. Before he could figure out his surrounding environment, Mr. Vulture's hairs suddenly stood up, his scalp going numb, that familiar feeling came back again. Bam! He felt a piercing pain at the back of his head, his vision going black. It was the same feeling as last time, he suffered a staggering blow again. Mr. Vulture forced himself to resist the pain, while straining himself to keep his eyes open to ensure that he didn't instantly faint. He did his best to turn his head. This time he has to see exactly who it is attack him from behind again and again. What entered into his eyes was still a field of hazy white. Mr. Vulture couldn't hold back from cursing. It really is my bone mace. But not waiting for him to see even more clearly, that hammer came down and once again hit his forehead. Ugh! Mr. Vulture's eyes rolled over, carrying boundless anger and endless regret and fainting over again. Lin Feng turned his head with a calm expression, asking indifferently. Did you guys see clearly this time? Xiao Yan was dumbfounded. Xiao Budian clapped his hands and smiled saying. Yes master, can you let me try? Lin Feng handed the bone mace over to Xiao Budian with a faint smile. Trying is one thing, have some discretion, don't kill him, master still has some things to ask him in a bit. Xiao Yan watched as Xiao Budian walked towards Mr. Vulture who had been repeatedly knocked unconscious with an excited expression on his face. He couldn't help but shake his head and turn his head to the side. What happened next was practically unbearable to watch. Chapter 39. Buddhist Dharma Weapon, Thundershock Staff. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Capturing Mr. Vulture, Lin Feng relaxed his heart. Towards the black-clothed swordsman and the white-robed middle-aged man he could only say sorry. Right now his mind is entirely on this Buddhist magic item in his hands that seems like the combination of a pestle and all. After searching through the trade system, Lin Feng confirmed that this magic item is one of the legendary 10 great Buddhist Dharma weapons of Buddhism, the Thundershock Staff. Buddhism's 10 great Buddhist Dharma weapons are all earth-shaking treasures with great power. The 10 Buddhist weapons combined as one is called the Infinite World, which is moreover the Great Thunder Monastery's crown treasure. Real Buddhist Dharma weapons are all high-quality magic treasures. They are treasures that only primordial soul stage cultivators can create. But the method of creation of Buddhist weapons is widespread within the Great Thunder Monastery. Monks of all levels can create them, although the ones created by cultivators below primordial soul are all magic items, they can only be considered replicas. This Thundershock Staff Hui Ku is refining right now belongs to this kind of replica. Lin Feng was slightly disappointed. So it's not a damaged treasure, it's just that this big monk hasn't successfully refined it yet. Even though it hasn't been successfully refined, this magic item's power is still enough to move people and it is worthy of the Thundershock Staff's name as a Buddhist Dharma weapon. According to Buddhist scriptures, in ancient times there was a tyrannical king, the people all indulged in the 4 cardinal vices, the vulgar aura reached the heavens and brought about divine retribution. The country suffered a massive drought, sandstorms buried the entire country beneath the earth, torrential rains caused constant flooding, the plague spread everywhere, causing the deaths of all humans and animals within 10,000 miles. The country was like purgatory. Buddha arrived to preach the Buddhist ways, not bearing to watch the people suffer in misery. He was willing to sacrifice himself and take their sins upon him. In the heavens there was a thunder god with a violent temperament, going so far as to cast down his divine artifact which pierced through Buddha's head. But the spiritual divine artifact was moved by Buddha's benevolence, turning into a powerful Buddhist weapon without rival, splitting the earth apart, creating channels and guiding the floods into the ocean, dispelling the calamity. And this magic item is the Thundershock Staff. Lin Feng does not believe this kind of legend that is clearly just Buddhism putting feathers on its cap, but this doesn't interfere with him from understanding from this legend that the Thundershock Staff's greatest use is not in attacking but in resolving the attacks of others. Astounding defense is this magic item's true strength. Lin Feng closely examined it for a moment. The Thundershock Staff is a foundation establishment stage magic item. It still hasn't been successfully refined yet, but it withstood the full-on attack of the Northern Aurora sword that is also a foundation establishment stage magic item. Even though it was damaged, it was not directly destroyed. Its defense is indeed worth praising. While Lin Feng was thinking, the Thundershock Staff in his hand suddenly started quivering. There seemed to be some sort of force attracting it, wanting it to break away from Lin Feng's control. It's Hui Ku, this monk has gotten his hands free. Lin Feng's heart moved, he lifted up his hand and made a couple of strokes in the air, unleashing Heaven Cage Sigil and sealing the Thundershock Staff. Hui Ku is a Foundation Establishment Stage cultivator, and the Thundershock staff is also a Foundation Establishment Stage magic item. Even if Lin Feng, who is at Qi Disciple level 10, sets up the Heaven Cage sigil, he originally would have been unable to seal the Thundershock staff. But the Thundershock staff has after all not been successfully refined yet, moreover it took a hit of Lin Feng's Northern Aurora Mystic Light before. So even though it's struggling, it is unable to break through the Heaven Cage sigil. With the appearance of the Heaven Cage sigil, it immediately severed the connection between Hui Ku and the Thundershock staff, making him unable to communicate with the Thundershock staff and unable to sense the location of Lin Feng and the magic item. Disregarding how furious the big monk is, Lin Feng brought along his 2 disciples along with Mr. Vulture, who had the living daylights knocked out of him by Xiao Budian, and went around this valley, continuing to chase after the Society of the Strong Gale and Zhu Yi from the other direction. Along the way, Lin Feng continuously studied the Thundershock staff structure, discovering that this magic item is refined using a Buddhist technique. The traces left behind when Hui Ku refined it are perfectly preserved in the magic item. This makes things easy, Lin Feng smiled. Other people are unable to learn spells and techniques from this kind of residual trace, even Buddhist cultivators of the same school are unable to do so. But for Lin Feng it couldn't be simpler. Opening the spell analyzer in the system tools, all Lin Feng has to do is patiently wait. Analysis complete. After a moment, the system notification sound rose up beside Lin Feng's ears. The spell analyzer had also listed out the detailed information. Spell name. Minor Samsara technique type. Spell effect. Tell right from wrong, discern karma, guide the attacks of others to stray from the original path, thereby achieving the goal of defense. Through the spell analyzer, Lin Feng very quickly understand all of the principles and essence of this spell, in turn grasping this spell. Lin Feng took out the snake blood Xiao Budian and Xiao Yan collected. Being nurtured by the Thundershock staff for so long, this giant python's blood was actually all a light golden color. The blood was very thick, but it didn't congeal, it rippled with a faint glow. After taking away a portion of the snake blood, Lin Feng put the Thundershock staff in the snake blood and then started to use his own mana to circulate the Buddhist spell, the Minor Samsara technique, continuing Hui Ku's unfinished work in refining this Buddhist Dharma weapon. Golden light constantly flashed on the surface of the Thundershock staff, just as if it were alive and breathing in and out. While breathing, it was constantly absorbing the spiritual energy in the snake blood. Hui Ku had already arrived at the final stage of refining this magic item. With just another few days' time he'd be able to finish the job. Yet in the end, due to his greed and chasing after Xiao Yan, it all went to Lin Feng. In addition, right now Lin Feng is disregarding all costs and spending great effort to refine it. In not even 2 days' time he successfully finished refining it. The completely refined Thundershock staff is completely golden. A radiant golden glow flows on the surface, waves of a sandalwood fragrance assail the nostrils, and Buddhist chanting fills the ears. Being placed there, the entire magic item was wrapped in Buddhist light, and there were countless images flickering in the Buddhist light. Buddhas, Arhats, monks, devas, the 8 legions, giant elephants, magic trees. Countless figures of light appeared one after another. Moreover, due to Hui Ku having already completed 99% of the work, even though it was Lin Feng, who is a Qi Disciple stage cultivator, who gave it the final push, this Thundershock staff is still a Foundation Establishment stage magic item. This is what made Lin Feng the most satisfied. Finishing refining the Thundershock staff, Lin Feng threw it over to Xiao Yan. This is what he promised. This magic item can effectively bring up his disciple's strength. Xiao Budian blinked his eyes while looking, going up and shaking Lin Feng's hands. Master, I also want a Foundation Establishment stage magic item. Lin Feng smiled, saying. Didn't you like that hammer? Xiao Budian grabbed the bone mace, scratching his head and laughing, saying. I do quite like it, too bad it's broken. Why don't you help fix it, Master? BDNVLDM. Lin Feng nodded his head. There will be time. First, Master has some official business to do. While speaking, he picked up Mr. Vulture, who was unconscious on the ground. The poor bald old man, his head was already filled with bumps from being hit by Xiao Budian. After Lin Feng used lightning to shock him awake, his first reaction was already no longer to open his eyes but instead conditionally wanting to cover his head with his hands. Unfortunately Xiao Budian had already made preparations, an animal tendon rope had already tied him up like a rice dumpling. Struggling for a while but still not receiving the customary hammer, Mr. Vulture was dazed for a moment and then almost cried out in tears of joy. The poor old man, every time he gets woken up he's already knocked unconscious in not even 1 second. The amount of time he spent awake after waking up this time was actually more than all of the previous times combined. Lin Feng looked at this scene in amusement, clearing his throat he asked. How many people did the house of the Marquis of Xuanji send into the mountains to hunt the Society of the Strong Gale? Chapter 40. Nameless Underground Palace. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. How many people did the house of the Marquis of Xuanji send into the mountains to hunt the Society of the Strong Gale? After spacing out for a moment Mr. Vulture asked hoarsely. Who are you? He wanted to turn around and see who it was, but when his body just moved he was firmly stepped on by someone and could only continue facing the dirt. Lin Feng's voice lightly traveled over. You don't have the right to ask questions. If you don't want to die then obediently answer my questions. You're already pretty old, it's not easy achieving foundation establishment stage, don't you want to continue living and enjoy life? Lin Feng smiled saying. The Marquis of Xuanji is not your dad, you're just working for him, there's no need to put your life on the line, right? Mr. Vulture was silent for a moment, he said in a low voice. Including me there are a total of 10 foundation establishment stage cultivators and over 100 Qi disciple stage cultivators. Mr. Huang San of the House of the Marquis is the head. Lin Feng asked. Mr. Huang San. Mr. Vulture was a bit surprised. Mr. Huang San of the House of the Marquis is very famous, how come Lin Feng looks like he's never heard of him? But right now he's in Lin Feng's hands and doesn't dare to say anything extra, only introducing to him and saying. Mr. Huang San is the third steward of the House of the Marquis, he's always been responsible for the external affairs of the House of the Marquis. After pausing for a moment he added on saying. Mr. Huang San is a great Oris Core stage cultivator. Lin Feng smiled helplessly, the Marquis of Xuanji Zhu Hongwu really does have a lot of swagger, using an Oris Core stage cultivator as a steward. Moreover he's also just the third steward, above him there's still 2 even greater than him. In principle, this kind of line-up should be able to take down that big monk Hui Ku, but the pretense is that they can't split up their forces and get sniped off by Hui Ku. Lin Feng looked at Mr. Vulture who was on the ground and nodded his head. Keeping him alive to go report to that Mr. Huang San really does have its uses. With an Oris Core stage cultivator leading the group, even if Hui Ku has the 24 Heaven Arhat formation he'll still have to watch out. Giving the heads up towards Xiao Budian in the distance, the little guy carried the bone mace and swiftly ran over. Lin Feng gave him a look and Xiao Budian immediately walked over behind Mr. Vulture with a smiling face. Even though Mr. Vulture was lying on the ground and couldn't see the scene behind his head, that familiar feeling of his hairs standing up and his scalp going numb once again appeared in his heart. No, right now the bald old man did not have any other thoughts, as long as he isn't knocked unconscious again he's willing to pay any price. But the progression of events does not change with his will. Xiao Budian aimed at the back of his head, familiarly bringing the hammer down and once again knocking Mr. Vulture unconscious. Lin Feng took away Mr. Vulture's storage bag and shoved the old man into a stone cave. He then called over Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian and left. Mr. Vulture is a subordinate of the House of the Marquis of Xuanji, his cultivating resources are provided by the House of the Marquis and are very rich. Lin Feng opened his storage bag. All kinds of panaceas and medicines made his eyes dazzled. He couldn't help but remark in his heart. Money truly comes quick with one-sided trades. The storage bag also has a Dao technique, its name is the Blue Oceanic River technique. It is a water-class Dao technique and can increase the practitioner's mana density. Water itself is something which wins in quantity, the denser it is the stronger its power. Cultivators who practice water-class Dao techniques usually all have denser and more abundant mana than other cultivators of the same level. This Blue Oceanic River technique is exactly so. It can increase the density of the practitioner's mana. When the Dao technique reaches completeness, the practitioner's mana is like a surging river, boundless and vigorous, a force unstoppable. Right now Lin Feng is already practicing two Dao techniques, the Nine Heavens Thunder technique and the Art of Akala. The lightning and fire mana cultivated by the two Dao techniques are both extremely domineering and fierce, but the speed of consumption is also quick. BL.net Currently Lin Feng's main attack method is the Foundation Establishment stage weapon the Northern Aurora Sword, and it is extremely mana heavy. If Lin Feng can cultivate the Blue Oceanic River technique, under the circumstances that his level doesn't change, his total mana will have a huge increase, which is more convenient for him to control the Northern Aurora Sword. For Lin Feng, this water-class Dao technique is undoubtedly a timely reign. Others who practice a Dao technique have to start from the very beginning, but using the hidden attribute of the system Lin Feng can easily finish it. Feeling in his 10 already opened meridian points the surging mana that is at the very least 30% more abundant than usual, Lin Feng smiled in satisfaction. While circulating the Blue Oceanic Rive technique, Lin Feng traveled along, very quickly catching up to the people of the Society of the Strong Gale. Instead of saying caught up, it would be better to say that the people of the Society of the Strong Gale stopped on the spot. The black-clothed man with a knife scar on his face was standing at the edge of a cliff with an overcast expression on his face. All of the cultivators of the Society of the Strong Gale were gathered at his side. Zhu Yi was being closely guarded by two people and traveling within the forest. His green clothes that had already become blanched from repeated washing had several cuts on it. He looks like a mess, but his expression is still calm. One cultivator of the Society of the Strong Gale couldn't resist saying, "You think that monk was killed? He's always bluffing and looking down on people, now he's shown his true form." The black-clothed man stroked the scar on his face, calmly saying, "Don't underestimate him, unless the opponent is an Aurus Core stage cultivator. Hui Ku will not have any problems. That monk is very skilled, if it wasn't so we wouldn't be thinking about wanting to pull him in." The cultivator beside him asked. "Then we just wait here." The black-clothed man lightly sighed saying, "I'm not waiting for Hui Ku, I'm waiting for those two mates who went to chase that fatty. Zhu Hongwu, that old dog sent out pursuers so quickly, this means that fatty successfully escaped back and informed them. Right now I just hope those two mates are clever enough to retreat after seeing that things aren't too well." The black-clothed man's brows were in a knot. "But after so many days they still haven't come back to meet up, I'm afraid." Sigh. All of the Society of the Strong Gale cultivators fell into silence. The black-clothed man took a deep breath. "The pursuers are already drawing near, we can't wait anymore." Finishing speaking, he took out a strangely shaped spiritual stone from his shirt, flicking his hand and throwing it into the air. Various spell signs altered in his hands. After forming several spell signs, large amounts of spiritual energy started to surge according to an intriguing rhythm and beat. Lin Feng was secretly observing the entire time from far away. Seeing the black-clothed man's actions, he instantly took heed. The spiritual stone flashed a couple of times in the air and then suddenly vanished. As for the steep mountainside below the cliff, after the light vanished it suddenly lit up with light. A cave entrance had surprisingly appeared on the originally ordinary stone wall. The instant the cave entrance appeared, Lin Feng sensed a strong spiritual energy from within leak out. This is definitely not a regular mountain cave, it's more like the entrance of a certain blessed cultivation spot. The black-clothed man's action just now was not to remove a certain illusion hiding the cave entrance, but instead using the spiritual stone as a key and opening the passage towards this blessed cultivation spot. This place is evidently one of the Society of the Strong Gale's paths of retreat that they'd already gained control of. Right now they have become trapped, thus they decisively used it. The black-clothed man took the lead and jumped down the cliff, his body sliding into the cave on the mountain wall. The rest of the cultivators of the Society of the Strong Gale immediately brought along Zhu Yi, following closely behind him in an orderly fashion and entering into the cave together. Lin Feng didn't dare tarry, bringing along his 2 disciples and quickly arriving at the bottom of the cliff. Luckily the cave entrance is still open, it did not recluse after the people of the Society of the Strong Gale entered inside. Master and disciple entered into the cave. Looking inside of the cave they could faintly see that it is a tunnel. Traveling down the tunnel, Lin Feng calculated the distance, the tunnel actually goes deep beneath the ground. Moving forward, there appeared several forks, numerous tunnels extended in all directions. This cave is actually a complex underground palace. At the moment Lin Feng was frowning because he suddenly discovered that he actually couldn't sense Zhu Yi's location anymore. This underground palace has abundant spiritual energy, but also has large amounts of foul energy that was also mixing together with the spiritual energy and appearing exceptionally chaotic. Under this kind of chaotic environment Lin Feng is unable to resonate with the crystal that he left on Zhu Yi. At the same time, the system notification sound suddenly rose up beside Lin Feng's ears.